And welcome everybody to Between Rounds here on Heavy.com. I'm Ken Gonzalez along with my co-host here, the coach Shawn Tompkins, and of course Dave Heisa. You're all familiar with Dave from the radio show. Now you get a chance to look at it. So this is the huge UFC 113 preview show. First one on the docket here right now. Lyoto Machida, Mauricio Shogun Rua, the huge rematch. They fought in Los Angeles at UFC 104. Lyoto got the victory. I didn't really think he did. Shawn, you were there. You said that I was crazy, that he did. But, you know, Shawn, we're going to get to the technical side of it here in just a second. But, Dave, break this down. You know, what are we going to expect to see here?
Well, the bottom line here is, like you said, Ken, it was a very close fight. Whether we give it to Lyoto, we give it to Shogun, it was a close fight. But I think the most important thing here is that Shogun showed the first way to counter the karate of Machida, because previously every single guy that fought him was just dominated. But Shogun proved that he had the skills and he had the game plan that could work against the karate in the cage. And so this rematch is going to be pretty interesting.
Right, exactly. Now, Shawn, what exactly does Shogun have to do? What was that little piece that he didn't do the first time that's going to make a difference here?
Well, I think first and foremost, we have to look at what worked for him. And what worked for him was his leg kicks. Right. You know, the damage that he did to the legs of Machida, even sometimes changing it up to the body kick. You know, I think that's really what we've got to look at in this fight. He's got to go back to that. He's got to continue to pressure Machida. And I think really to make a change in this fight, we have to see a change in Machida. Before Machida's that stylistically, that karate, that very traditional style that he does, that forward and back motion, but he generally runs and he doesn't box. And what we need to see is we need to see from him to come in and to be able to learn how to change it up and not just be that one style, but be able to change into a boxer or a kickboxer, because we know Shogun's been doing this for a long time. He's very formidable on the ground. He's not scared to throw jump kicks, and he'll chase you down whenever the chance rises.
Right, and you know, one of the questions going in also, not just about the fight itself or the technicalities of the fight, but we look at the Anderson Silva fight, even some people say the George St. Pierre fight, a little bit lackluster. Is UFC going to be in a little bit of trouble if these guys come out and perform for 5 rounds and it's just a so-so game? Dave?
Well, if you saw the first fight, I mean, they went after each other. Lyoto ran a little bit, but I think it was the leg kicks that Shawn was talking about. But this time around, Shogun wants it. I think he's hungry, and I think that's going to be, he's going to push the pace of the fight, and I think that's going to be what it's going to take to win the fight for Shogun.
Right. I think that you've got to look at it from both sides of the table. First of all, when you're a fighter like Shogun, who it was so close he could have had that victory and that title, he could go back to camp and be remotivated and build and work harder, you know, and maybe come up with those little mistakes that he made that could have capitalized and made it all work out for him. You know, on the other hand, Machida's got to come back and say, listen, I can't just squeak by a victory again. I have to go out there and dominate. Obviously, every fight we've seen that's been in the championship realm lately has been a gamble for the UFC. Machida knows he's got to go out there, he's got to prove himself, and he's got to pressure Shogun.
Well, can Machida dominate Shogun? Is it possible?
I think that he's going to have to change his style to do it. If he goes out and he's the normal Machida that he's been, absolutely not. He's too defensive. He counterpunches too much. And Shogun's always going to be ahead of him. The crowd is going to want to see in this rematch, they're going to want to see a clean, decisive victory, not somebody running from another fighter and just outscoring him.
Now, you mentioned the leg kicks in the first fight. Do you think that that's going to be another key to success for Shogun this time around?
See, that's always a tough question, especially from myself as a coach's point of view, because I know that Shogun's probably saw that and knew that it worked for him, but at the same time Machida has went home and said, okay, where did I lose this fight? Well, he lost the fight on leg kicks. So he's going to probably be working on how to capitalize on defending the leg kick, timing the leg kick, and just finding a way to get away from it. So I think that still it's going to be a factor in the fight because that's always been one of Shogun's biggest weapons. But I'm sure that the Machida is going to also have a way to capitalize on going against it.
And how do you counter those leg kicks? I mean, it seems like everyone's been landing them lately in MMA. It's such an important part of the game. It's such an important part of the keys to having success. What does he need to do to not get hit by so many?
Well, he's got to learn how to block the leg kick, you know, and not just take it, not just run from it. in order to get somebody to stop kicking you in the leg, you block it, because a shin-to-shin strike hurts.
Right.
And if you have that pain, mentally you're not going to throw it as often. And I really think that Machida's going to have to add that in his defensive arsenal.
Definitely.
Now, obviously, Shogun had a reputation before he came to the UFC. The first fight he had was a bit lackluster. Is this the Shogun of before? Is Shogun, has he arrived finally?
I think that after seeing him in his last couple fights, he's slowly getting to the Shogun that we knew from the Pride days. He had a rough start, but I see him actually transferring into the UFC better than most fighters have. You know, he's found himself. He's found that aggressive Pride style that, you know, we all have learned to love.
And I think what also was a problem for Shogun in the beginning, other than, you know, fighting off some injuries, was he had to deal with the rule changes. He was used to having, he could do soccer kicks, he could do all these things that in America or in MMA here, you're not allowed to do. So that being said, it took him some time to transition into the game, and I think that now that he's got that down, that also has brought him back to the level he was at.
Right. Agreed. Yeah, no, I mean, let's just look at the history of, you know, from Pride fighters moving into the UFC that are in the same, were in the same camp that Shogun rolled with, and the Shooter box, and most of their victories came from soccer kicks or head stomps. You know, you take that out of their game, and you know, now we have to see a Shogun that's transferred into the Shogun that the UFC really needs and that we deserve.
When we come back, right here in Between Rounds, we're going to discuss Josh Koscheck with a victory. Might he have to face one of his buddies? So we'll find out when we come back right here on Between Rounds.